Welcome to the Real Deals Real Estate Podcast, where you'll learn about buying and selling homes and how to invest in real estate. Now, here's your host, Donald Torrence of JAVE Real Estate.
Good day, everybody. Back at you again today with another episode, another video. Again, my name is Donald Torrence. I'm a real estate investor for over 30 years in the Northwest Indiana and Chicagoland area. Mostly focused on the south suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, and the northwest suburbs of Northwest Indiana. I'm sorry. Today, I want to talk to my realtors. I keep getting this questions when I talk to realtors that don't work with investors, or they dislike investors. So I don't know what it is exactly. I just know there's apparently some issues with realtors and investors, where they think that investors are a not needed in the real estate arena. So in that response that I get from them a lot of times is, I don't understand why sellers work with you guys. I don't understand why sellers sell you guys their properties, or I don't understand how you guys get sellers to actually work with you all. And before I can respond, I always ask, why would you say that? And the answer is, they say they have more access to buyers than an investor. And my response a lot of times is, well, it only takes one person to buy your property. Listing a property on the MLS for hundreds and thousands of millions perhaps to see it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a buyer. It means that you posted a property for more people to actually see it, which is a good thing, but it doesn't mean that you're going to actually sell that property. And what happens a lot of times, you see property sit on the MLS for 90, 160 days, sometimes 360 days. My question to realtors who go to a seller and list their property and hope that somebody comes and buy it, what's your response to a seller that doesn't get their property sold, that you didn't provide them the service that they needed, and that was to get out of a situation? Because most of the time somebody's selling a property, they selling it for a reason, whether it's they in foreclosure, whether it's an inherited property they don't want, whether the property is in disrepair and they don't have the money to fix it, or they just bought another home and they just looking for another property that they can move to. Whatever that situation is, you as an agent or a realtor or a broker or whatever your title is, didn't provide them the service they needed to actually get out from under that property. So my question to you is, you don't see the need of an investor doing deals with a seller, but you do need investors. Do you think you need investors to actually buy distressed properties? My question to realtors is, do you think investors play an important role when it comes to properties that's been on the market for a long period of time? And this video is not to beat up realtors. It's to try to educate you on how investors and realtors can work together seamlessly and actually become partners and actually getting the end results, and that's getting the property sold for a seller. And I'm going to dive into that a little bit more so you can get a better understanding on how that can actually work for a seller and a realtor to actually work together. And it's something you can keep and Hip National Bank as a weapon, a tool, that investor as a tool later down the line after you have listed a property. Now, most realtors that I talk to don't want to list a property where the roof is leaking, the kitchen is completely falling apart, there's holes in the floor, there's an extensive amount of damage that's to the property. Whether it was an older person that owned it and now they know that they want to sell it because they looking to actually go into a nursing home, whatever it may be, they know that they need to sell a property. So my question to those realtors who don't want to list those properties, what do you expect those sellers to do with a property that's in disrepair? What do you expect those sellers to do when they got a week before, and they in foreclosure and they got a week before they sell date? And all investors are not good investors. All investors don't intend to actually close on a property. But those who are anticipating closing on a property, those are the investors that I'm talking about, realtors working with. Those are the investors that realtors need to have in a back pocket. Those are the investors that can make deals happen a lot faster than somebody that's a tire kicker. When I say tire kicker, I mean they just looking at the property, they got it under contract. They pretty much just got the property under contract to actually try to move it themselves to someone else. Those are the realtors, those are the investors that I am not talking about. So for a realtor to wonder why a seller wants to work with an investor, let's look at some key reasons why. It's speed. I can close within weeks, not months. I don't have to get approved for a loan. I don't have to go through all of the inspections that hurt deals, because you can have a home inspector come out and walk through a property and give you a detailed list of 50 things that's wrong. And now the potential buyer for that property just decided if the seller don't give them a reduction in price, I don't want to move forward with the property. So now that property just went under contract. That the buyer tied it up for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever it may have been, to find out that they either, one, can't get finance, two, the bank don't like the deal, three, the buyer don't like the property after the inspection report. So if one of those things happen, you just wasted 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however long it took before the deal unraveled. With a investor, he's looking at the deal and saying, okay, this is the price that I need to buy it at because I need to come in and do this amount of renovation. I know when I go to sell it, I got these amount in closing cost fees, and this is the amount that I'm trying to make on once I sell a property. So they put all those numbers together, and then they come up with a buy price that they need to buy that property at. So when an investor that's serious goes under contract with a property, most of the time 2 to 3 weeks they closing on it. Some close a little longer because some people do use private lenders, and some do use hard money lenders. Some of those lenders do take a little longer, but if they go under contract, that property most likely is going to close. Most realtors ask for a proof of funds letter, and I try to explain to realtors, proof of funds letter means nothing. I can give you a proof of funds letter from a lender, and then they say, oh, you know what? We don't like the deal. We're not going to fund it. It happens. So giving a proof of funds letter means nothing. because lenders will give you a proof of funds letter until the deal go into underwriting. And once the deal go into underwriting, the deal can fall apart. So, and I know it's one thing that you guys do to actually keep you from wasting your time, having people go out and look at properties who actually couldn't even never get approved for a property. I understand that purpose of it, but I just want to make sure that you understand that a lot of times proof of funds letter is not worth the paper it's written on. And along with working with investors, and most investors have creative ways that they can actually make a deal work, and that's the important part. So let's say you got a deal that uh, it's they got a mortgage on it for $200,000. The property's only worth 230. They bought it 2 years ago, so they didn't pay nothing down on the mortgage yet. But they got to relocate because of a job situation. So now here's the caveat for working with an investor. An investor can come in with a creative structure, can actually still buy the property, and it's talking to the seller and getting the seller to understand that there's some ways that an investor can come in and buy the property, get you off from under the debt from the property, and then have you move on. Most of the time, realtors don't know how to explain the process, and most of the time, a seller says no, or most of the time, a realtor don't know or don't understand creative financing, and they don't know how to explain it to their seller for the seller to see the benefits of it for them. So a lot of times the seller will say, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to do that. And it's more so because they just don't understand how that structure works for the sellers in their best interest. If a seller's in foreclosure, an investor can come in and actually save their credit, help them rebuild their credit by stepping into that property and getting them out of the situation by either taking over the payments, restructuring the loan for them, with them, the investor coming in, making those payments for them. And over time, it builds their credit back up. They can go out and buy another property. As opposed to them going through the foreclosure, it's going to be much harder for them to get a property. The foreclosure is going to hurt them financially, credit-wise, and some things that they, may not come back. Some people don't come back from a situation like that. So it's best if an investor stepped in and actually helped them out of that situation. So that being said, there are some good key points to a seller, a realtor working together with an investor. It's an important thing when you can go to your seller and say, okay, let's list the property. Let's see how the public responds to it. But I need to tell you, as your realtor, there's three things that keep a property from getting sold, or it doesn't move. One is the condition. If the property's in bad shape, nobody's gonna buy it. Price. If the property's overpriced, or the price of the property doesn't sit well with the public, it won't move. Or the location. If it's in a bad area, what people consider a bad area, it won't move. So, and that's you got investors that buy in distressed areas. You have investors that buy don't care what the price is. They care what the price is, but they don't. As long as the amount that because if they buy in a property that's at full value, they're holding that property for an investment property for rental. So as long as they can cash flow that property, most of the time they're interested in it if the seller's willing to work with them. So if I can cash flow a property and I'm paying full value for it, I would consider buying it. My buy box is 3 bedrooms, 1,600 square feet. I know I can add another bedroom and another bathroom in it to get more income. So every investor has a buy box, and a buy box is basically what type of property would you buy? I do buy multifamilies. We're currently looking at motels more so now than single families and apartment buildings. So that's something that we look at still. We still look at single families, but when we look at them, we look at can it cash flow? If I pay $200,000 for a property that's worth 230, I know with my closing costs and all my fees and stuff, I'm gonna probably be 215, 220 when it's all said and done. So at that price, can I still cash flow the property, taking over the existing debt? And if the answer is yes, I'm interested. That's what's gonna be my key to saying if it's a property that I would want to actually move forward with. And most of the time, if you look at a deal right, you can actually make it cash flow. So talking to a seasoned investor and a newbie investor, most of the time they can't make those deals work. They don't have the resources to make it work. They don't have a team of people who've worked with them in the past that helps them to actually get a better understanding of those deals. So saying that it is a great thing to actually have investors and have investors for that purpose. Now, on the other hand, a property that's sat on the market for 100 days or 90 days or anything over 90 days, it tells the public that there's something wrong with the property. It tells the public that there it's not a property that nobody wants. So if it hadn't went under contract, nobody wants it. It can show you can go and look at it and see that it had 100 views or 200 views, whatever that magical number is. But it had all these views where somebody looked at the listing, but nobody actually moved forward to put an offer in on it, or somebody put an offer in and that offer fell apart. Why did the offer fell apart? This is what the public's saying. This is what the public dictates what the buy price is on that property if it's overpriced. The public dictates the condition if the condition is too bad for somebody to buy it. If the location is too bad for somebody to buy it, the public is telling you and they screaming it. It's been on the market for 100 days. Nobody has contracted it to close it. Nobody has actually got to the table to actually make this deal work. There's a reason for it. So now you get an investor that sees what the potentials can be and they see what the problems of the deal structure is. The problem with the property, I mean. So when they see the property is in disrepair, they see the property is has a mortgage on it, perhaps, and the seller will actually have to bring money to close if they give a seller a credit, if they give a buyer a credit at closing. Say that most buyers ask for 2.5, 3%. So if they give them that 3% plus the 9%, I mean the 6% in closing costs, that's 9%. Then you add on closing costs. Let's say closing costs is another 2 points, 2%. You almost at you at 11% to sell this property, and that's typically 10 to 11% is typical to sell a property, not count their holding time for to maintain it, to cut grass, to keep the utilities on. That's still a cost for them to sell a property. So that cost, all those costs add up. It's going to be somewhere around 11% for them to sell that property. So when you look at that and look at that they got a mortgage on it, uh, it's harder to have a seller to actually want to bring money to close to sell a property. They thoughts were, I'm a seller property, I'm going to walk away with money, not bring money to the table. So most of the time when you work with an investor, they'll tell that seller, hey, look, we'll pay your closing costs. You don't have to worry about the closing costs. We'll pay that. And in some cases, we'll pay your realtor so you can get some money at closing. Because most of the time they need that money to either move, they need the money for another a down payment for another property, whatever they need the money for. To have them bring, a $200,000 property, 11%, that's a big chunk of money for them to be bringing to the table. So if somebody's paying closing costs and the realtors fees, that's at least 9%. So they saving that to get that at closing. And on top of that, they taking the property as is. So most of the time it's a good thing for a seller because they don't have that struggle of waiting and trying to deal with the property, and it works out in their best interest. Uh, so just just be open minded is what I'm trying to get to realtors. Talk to an investor, find out what they're offering, find out what the advantage of working with that realtor is, an investor is, and get a clear understanding of what that investor intentions are, and what they plans are with the property, because that's going to help you to know if this is a deal or not. And and you need to understand that I get a lot of realtors that say investors try to lowball sellers. Are they truly lowballing them with a property that needs a new roof? You listed it for $100,000, but it needs $100,000 worth of renovation, and they made an offer of 65,000. Are you truly lowballing them with the renovation budget? Uh, you're taking all that in consideration, and the properties I can hold the property for an income property, or I can flip that property out for a quick flip, meaning I'm going to put it back on the market. But I need to make money off of it. The whole point of me doing this is to feed my family. So most realtors forget that part when they talk to investors, and they just look at the lowball offer. And I fault investors too for not educating when you have that conversation with a realtor and say, hey, I'm going to give you an offer that's going to be a lot lower than what you got it listed for. But here's why I'm making an offer at a lower price. I got to do AYZ, new roof, new plumbing, new electrical. I'm going to do a gut job on the property. I'm going to put it all back so it'll be brand new. I'm basically rebuilding the house to a brand new house. And most of the time, relatives will understand that. And then there's going to be some that just don't get it and feel that you're taking advantage of a seller. And then, it's the thing that helps sellers have a better understanding that most realtors don't give is a net sheet. That net sheet is going to break down what your closing costs going to be, what your loan payoff is going to particularly be, what the all the so-called costs is going to cost them to sell it. When you're doing your initial consultation with your client or your seller, have a net sheet for them. Have them to see what it's going to cost for them to sell a property. Because some sellers are unrealistic on the sale of their property and believe that they're going to make much more than what they actually are. And then when they get to the closing table, they're shocked because of the amount of money they have to shell out at closing. And they truly not getting what they thought. Let's just take a property that's I'm gonna stay at the $200,000 price point, because if you got a $200,000 mortgage to pay off, and if you have been behind, say 5 months, you got 5 months of payments, the late fees, attorney fees, court cost fees. You have so many additional fees that's added on the $200,000 payoff. So when you come to closing, you see another an additional $20,000 added on to the mortgage payoff, and then you see another $10,000 on closing cost fees with relatives. And I'm just using, I know that's it's more than that, but let's just say another $10,000 in closing cost fees. Now you like, there's no way I can actually close on the property as a seller. So that net sheet helps them to understand this is where your money is going. And unfortunately, in order for you to sell this property, you will have to bring 15 or $20,000 to close. And most sellers are not willing to do that. Most sellers, when they hear that number, they kind of like, this isn't what I expected. I don't want to do the deal now. So now you as a realtor, your deal blew up at the closing table where you got through all the financial part of it. You got through all the inspections. And then when you get to the closing table, it blows up because the seller gets a shock that they have to bring so much money to close that they didn't expect to bring to close. So that's why it's important for you to actually let your seller know what those fees are. So always give your seller a net sheet. Now, if you give a seller a net sheet and they see that they're not going to get the funds that they needed, that's when you should immediately turn to your investor and tell them, explain to them that you have other ways that you can actually get the property sold for them. And that's when you start explaining to them. You work with investors who actually buy distressed properties, properties that's in foreclosures. You can they'll buy the property as is. You don't have to fix anything. You can leave all the furniture, whatever you don't want in a property, just leave it there. Take care of it, and which is true. I don't ask them to remove anything because another stressor for a seller who inherit a property. Now they going through their relatives' personal effects, and it's kind of a stress on them. So if they can actually get that property sold without having to remove any of those things, it's a big help for them. Some of the other things that may come about is that you can actually tell your seller is uh, if you need money to move because you won't get anything, we can negotiate for you to actually get money to actually relocate. Uh, this investor would take care of my fees. It would take care of all your closing cost fees. All you need to do is just show up to closing, and everything else will be handled for you. We go on the MLS, it's a possibility we might sit there for a while. This guy can actually close in as little as 2 to 3 weeks. So when you start explaining stuff like that to your seller, it will actually shows them that you actually are doing everything you can to get the property sold, which works out in their best interest. So, and parting words to realtors, the reason people work with investors is because of speed, because of no long-term drag out contracts to actually get to closing, uh, shorter negotiation rate, less time trying to get the property taken care of and sold, less stress. There's a lot of advantages when you break it down. There's a lot of advantages to working with an investor. So open your eyes up. Be open to talking to an investor. That's the best thing I could say to a realtor. Just be open to the conversation. Again, if you want to reach me and you want to have a conversation with me as a realtor, I'm open to that. I'm open to talking to you about creative structured deals. I'm open to talking to you about how I can move some properties for you guys. How I'm an active investor. I'm still buying properties. So if you are open to having that conversation, reach out to me. I'm on all things social media, Donald Torrance, uh, and look forward to talking to you. Oh, forgot. If you like this video, subscribe, share it, follow me. Uh, I put out some good contents here and there that people do take value to. So, again, thank you for letting me vent a little bit about the relatives and investors working. Look forward to seeing you at the next video. Thank you.
If you want to hear more stories and tips about real estate, foreclosure, and private lending insights, hit like and subscribe now.